Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brownhead. That's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow Makina McGee on the Twitter, X, and Makina McGee on the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch up on the other live shows that we have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, please follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. And speaking of our podcast, you can subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And speaking of War Media, please subscribe on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Lakina was muted there for a second. We're trying to cut out in our intro.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. My bad, folks.
There we go. We're on the Podjagically Fun, and we have very definite opinions. You have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and don't do something silly or stupid or out of pocket, as the kids would say, I'm giving Lakina full power to give you fools the bill and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate the squad. Get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on the sports folder and download the Sports Zone Chicago app to access Sports Zone Chicago. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC, your Chromebook like I'm using right now, just hit up the Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
We will. We'll be providing a lot here this Monday here on Second City Sports. We're going to recap Bears and Colts. Also, too, we've got the rest of the NFL preseason slate. We also are going to talk some baseball as the Cubs are edging closer. The Sox salvage a win in the Mile High City and other baseball action as well. But then NFL Countdown on ESPN has their new host. So well, not big surprise to talk about that. And we keep it animated for old school TV Monday. But today, let's go to the gridiron and let's recap Bears and Colts.
Yes, the Chicago Bears played their second preseason game last Saturday night in Indianapolis, Indiana, against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts come from behind, trailing 17-7 to beat the Chicago Bears 24-17. Most of the starters, both on offense and defense for the Bears, did not play, but guess who did, Lakina? Nathan Pearman played in the majority of the second half for the Chicago Bears. He was 10 of 18 for 115 yards and a touchdown. But the number 2 spot could be up for grabs, Lakina. Tyson Bagent was 9 of 10 for 76 yards. He also had led a touchdown drive as well. But P.J. Walker, who got to start, he didn't look too good. Only 1 of 4 passes for 6 yards. He got sacked a couple of times, Lakina. We'll get to the other positions in just a moment, but Lakina, I will keep this in perspective, just like we're going to tell our listeners and viewers. Yes, this is preseason, but just judging what my eyes saw on this YouTube screen, P.J. Walker, we talked about on Friday, Lakina, could this Bears team have a real QB battle? The way that P.J. Walker performed, it's a real battle for the number 2 quarterback spot. Now you have him, you have Tyson Bagent, and you have Nathan Peterman. He'll probably be released prior to the season starting, barring any injuries. But Bears head coach Matt Eberflus has a battle on his hands now with the number 2 quarterback spot. I know he said after the game that all positions on the team are open for competition. But the number 2 quarterback spot is getting very interesting.
Yes, it has. And Tyson Bagent, who, from Tiny Shepherd University, Shepherd College, I think I should say, impressed, played very well, looked really good. And PJ Walker, I think they signed him for like $6 million, I think a couple of months ago. So it's really going to be a battle here. You got to wonder, how. And Peterman actually looked pretty good as well. We know that he's a veteran, veteran backup. So, but it's going to be interesting for me, I think, to see what direction they decide to go, because I think the quarterback position, the number 2 quarterback spot is going to be very coveted, since in case not going to wood, God forbid something happened to Justin Fields. So you got to make sure the guy that knows the offense, that can throw it to some of the guys, and he looked Peterman looked really good. The Brees Fountain, who I know people were making fun of his name. The downtown the Fountain and stuff. He's from Northern Iowa. Guy's been around for a few years, so I think he said it on Twitter that he just wants an opportunity. So this is definitely a showcase for those guys that are kind of on the cusp, practice squad guys and whatnot. So that's what you want in the second game of the preseason.
Yeah, as we said before, the second game of the preseason, sometimes the third game of the preseason, is for backups and third stringers to showcase their talents, to see if they can be a contributor to the team. It could be a liability or asset to a football team, and that's what it's all about. Now, on the other areas of the Bears team, their running back room is going to get crowded too. I like this rookie running back Roshan Johnson. He had 7 carries for 32 yards. He really looked good. I know starter Khalil Herbert didn't play, but Deontay Foreman, who they picked up in the free agency, he looked good as well, even though he had 12 yards on 3 carries. Looks like him and Khalil Herbert could be a 1-2 punch in the backfield, so I like what the Bears could potentially do with the running game. Of course, David Montgomery is now a member of the Detroit Lions. Tyreek Stevenson, who we raved about on this show last week for his performance against the Tennessee Titans in the preseason opener, he did have a bad start to the game on Saturday, but he kept at it. Remember, folks, he's a rookie, so he still has a lot to learn, a lot to grow on. I still think that young man, that second-round draft pick out of Miami, he's going to be okay. Now, the Bears' defense, they did take a slight step back, but what I like from this group, they're going to be active to the ball, just like those defenses in the past with Lovie Smith when he was here many years ago. So, yes, the Bears blew that 17-7 lead in the second half, but there's still some signs that this team is growing. They did take a step back outside the loss, but this team still has a long way to go, but you start to see some progress.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Mykal Walker. I think he looked really good. He led the team in tackles and such, and and you guys know how I feel about Jack Sanborn. He actually looked really good now. It's good. It's probably going to take him a couple of games, kind of get him back into form, because of course the injury he had last year. And look, guys, those are the type of guys that you want to see. I mean, Kendall Williamson. I know there are a couple people that we know who cover the Bears have been buzzing about him from Stanford. He actually looked really good too. So again, it's definitely kind of a mixture of guys that are just trying to get become those second or third string guys, or so guys will stay out the practice squad. I mean, you gotta think you gotta give the Bears credit. I mean, yeah, they blew their lead, but they gave us 17-7. I think it was like 10-17 unanswered, I think, after that point. But on the flip side for Indy, I know Gardner Minshew. Anthony Richardson did not play, so the rookie from Florida. But Gardner Minshew looked really good. Threw for a touchdown. Pass him, Enninger had a rushing touchdown that actually kind of led the comeback. So, you got to think that this actually looked really. The Bears, you know what I mean? Look, they look okay. I mean, they look great? No, but they were they're now 1-1. We finished up the preseason this weekend, so yeah, you gotta feel pretty good. And of course, they face Buffalo on Saturday. You got to wonder that most of the people are not going to play. Although Ryan Poles, if you heard his interview with Jason McKee on ESPN 1000, he made it sound like he wasn't very pleased with Eberflus saying most of the starters, including Fields. So he said that he kind of made it sound like that they may play a series on Saturday. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah, also too, word around campus that the starters may play more than a series. They may play a quarter into the second quarter, or maybe at least part of the majority of the first half. We'll see what happens as this week goes along. But also, too, injury note for the Chicago Bears. It looks like starter offensive lineman Tevin Jenkins may miss the start of the regular season. So it's going to test the depth of the offensive line early for Chicago. So I think that this preseason game coming up on Saturday for against the Buffalo Bills, which, like you said, I don't think any of their stars are going to play. I doubt that you see Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs, anybody suit up for that. I'll doubt. Very seriously doubt that. But going back to the Bears, but whoever starts on the offensive line for the Bears, you want to see progress. You want to see them take the next step to help develop this offense to help out Justin Fields. I'm really looking forward to see Darnell Wright, their first-round draft pick out of the University of Tennessee. He did a couple of good things. He didn't play on Saturday, but he did a couple of good things a couple of weeks ago against the Tennessee Titans. If he starts on Saturday, I want to see what progressions that he has taken from the first preseason game into now starting the third preseason game against Buffalo coming up here on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all these guys look because they didn't play. They're going to be playing again. I'm sure they're going to play like maybe most of not – maybe just the first quarter if nothing else. So I think that progression is really going to be the sort of like the thing here, especially with guys that are struggling to make another spot on the team. So we're looking forward to seeing how everyone looks now. The Tevin Jenkins injury again. I mean, every year is always something with this guy, right? I mean, like you said, it's really going to test that depth early on. Now they didn't say how long it's going to be out. It could be 4 weeks. It could be the season. It could be just half the season. So they're not really saying much, keeping that very close to the vest. So we'll see what happens there. As you listen to Second City Sports on Chicago, Lee Keenan McGee, Cindy Brown with you now. We won't go game by game because I think it'd be a waste since a lot of the starters didn't play. But who impressed you, if you from the highlights or the games that you saw, who impressed you most in week 2 of the preseason?
The Denver San Francisco 49ers contest from the weekend. Pay attention to this guy. He wears number 10 for the 49ers. Ronnie Bell from the San Francisco 49ers. He was a wide receiver, the 7th round pick out of the University of Michigan. He made a couple of great plays. He had a good punt return, and he had a good great catch on that game-winning field goal drive. He could definitely run after the catch. He has separation from his defenders. This kid really impressed me. And sticking with the 49ers, Lakina, I know I was going to say Trey Young. We're not talking about basketball, but Trey Lance, he had a pick early, but he did rebound to throw a touchdown pass. Sam Darnold played the majority of that first half into the second half. He looked good, even though he had a turnover too, but he did bounce back. Of course, the 49ers beat the Denver Broncos by 1 with the last-second field goal over the weekend. So Ronnie Bell, the 7th round draft pick out of Michigan for the 49ers, I hope they keep him because if they don't, there's a few teams that could use his services. If San Francisco's smart, if they do cut him, which I don't think they will, but let's just say they did, you better put him on the practice squad. Because I'm not going to say he's the next Deebo Samuel, but he has some Deebo Samuel tendencies.
Yeah, he actually did a lot of it when he was at Michigan too. I think he did punt return. He did a lot of receiving too. So I think they'd be crazy. I don't think they're going to cut him. I think you want that extra depth, especially if you want to line the load on Mustard. Especially if he looks even better next this weekend. You stole mine. I wanted to say Trey Lance, but look, great minds think alike.
That's true.
Yeah, it is. Remember, it was his touchdown that jump started that comeback. So that's why we were able to come back and win that game against the Broncos. Now, I will say this. I know Bears fans don't want to hear it, but I gotta say Jordan Love looked pretty good. I know he only played 1 series in that game against the Patriots, and of course they lost that game 27-17. But he actually looked really good. Was 5 for 8. For 84 yards. I know he rushed for about 11. I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh my God, he's going to be like Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and the streak will continue with Packers QBs, but he didn't seem frazzled. And I think that's a key here if you want to kind of like have a shot at perhaps maybe, them keeping up with that tradition. So I think he looked really good. Who else looked good? Staying in the NFC North, that Jaguars Lions game, CJ Beathard had 138 yards and a touchdown. Their defense looked really good too. So you got to think, I know a lot of things. People were expecting them to do a lot this year. I'm talking about the Jaguars, so you got to think that they looked really good. Caleb Johnson from Houston Baptist led them in tackles. So you like to see guys that yes, you want to see how the top guys do. In some cases, they don't play, but seeing guys from some of the smaller schools, D3, D2, and IA, trying to make a name as far as getting in that practice squad at the very least. So you get love seeing stories like that.
Yep. You're going to see highlights of this game tomorrow, Tuesday, for those listening back on the replay on War Media Podcast. It's the Jets losing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 13-6 last Saturday night. Kyle Trask for Tampa Bay, who's in course, in some reports, he's in a QB1 battle with Baker Mayfield for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kyle Trask was 20 of 28 for 218 yards and a touchdown. There was not much scoring in this game, only just one touchdown that came from Tampa Bay. On the flip side for the Jets, I know Aaron Rodgers didn't play. Zach Wilson, he had a couple of nice runs, but I didn't think he looked that great to me. Now, the Jets defense is on point, and that's what kept New York in the game, but their running game was vanilla to say the least. They had a fumble there. On the flip side for Tampa Bay, they didn't look great after that first half, but they kept with it. Like I said, I thought Kyle Trask looked good. So I think Baker Mayfield will get the start, but should he struggle early, I think Kyle Trask can be a competent quarterback and maybe keep Tampa Bay afloat. But he did look good against the Jets last Saturday night.
Yeah, he really did. And I think, he didn't, like I said, he didn't seem, too frazzled. He's a guy that's been around for a couple of years now from Florida. So you gotta think, he looks pretty good so far. The Jets, their offense led by my guy Travis Dye from USC. Oy vey, that was a bad fumble. But the good news is that Aaron Rodgers will start. It'll be this weekend. It'll be his first preseason start since 2018. So it's been a while since he played a preseason game. So I think that's just, to kind of, for confidence purposes to make sure to get the feel of it. So maybe that's probably what we'll see here. And kicking off for Monday, Tuesday, you guys will be listening to this on the replay. Ravens and Commanders. So you may not see Lamar Jackson and the rest of the squad. You probably won't see OBJ and the rest of that group, nor Jaden Klein, who they just signed. The Commanders, they got a QB battle going. So that might be something to look out for as well. Between Sam Howell. Well, I guess he already said Sam Howell's going to be the quarterback. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to look. So, I'm looking forward to that game tonight.
And also, too, going back to yesterday's contest, the Saints and the Los Angeles Chargers, that game did go on as playing yesterday due to even though there were some weather concerns out there in during the Los Angeles, Southern California area. Hopefully everybody's okay because that tropical storm didn't look great on TV. You watched any of the news coverage this weekend, but Jameis Winston looked good on a couple of plays for the New Orleans Saints. Of course, the Chargers didn't have any other starters playing, but I thought the Saints looked good. Of course, Derek Carr did not play, so he's going to be your starter for the Saints. But I thought Jameis Winston looked okay.
Yeah, he could definitely be a good number 2 behind Carr. So I think that should definitely help them. And I watched some of that game yesterday. There was some concerns about it. It looks like the worst of they I guess that area avoided the worst of the rain. So that's good news there. So keep our thoughts.
I know some people were talking about canceling that game, but they went on as planned.
Yeah, so thoughts and prayers go out to the folks. Stay safe and dry out there in southern and SoCal and parts of Nevada and parts of northern Arizona too, who are affected by tropical storm. Well, now it's tropical depression now, Hillary. So, but yeah, they were able to get the game in with no problem, and I'm sure everyone had to kind of hightail it out. I'm sure the Saints. I think they didn't lead till till like early this morning. So, Yeah. So,
all right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging out here with you. We got to talk about that baseball, Lakina. Interesting things are happening both locally and nationally. The Cubs get it done against the Kansas City Royals. As you mentioned, the Sox, they happen to squeeze the game out of the worst team in the National League. And the pennant races in both leagues are starting to heat up. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more as you're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying. These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
He's seen a lot of the world, Chris Flexen, whether it be in the minors or Korea, and that ball's doused by Andrew Vaughn in the air, left field, at the wall, and gone! Smash to right field. Tolia looks up. It's off the wall. Moncada hits a dart. One run is home. Here comes number 2, and the Sox have tied the game. About half a step on that dive. That ball cranked by Sosa to left field. Back to the wall. It is out of here.
Those highlights come courtesy of NBC Sports Chicago. Those highlights come courtesy of NBC Sports Chicago as the White Sox avoid getting swept by the worst team in the National League in the Colorado Rockies. Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. You're listening to the Monday edition. We're live in living color. I'm Sid Deslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, and I can't scroll again the IG, and yeah, I mean they avoided getting swept by the Rockies. Yay! Woohoo! Whoop-de-doo! Yay! But you know, Donna, seriously, I will say this. I mean, the young guys stepped up to avoid the sweep. I'm not gonna, look. I think this is sort of like the thing for the Sox about this time. Like, let the young guys, come into it. Let the sort of like, I don't want to say like sit the rest like, Robert Jr. and the rest of them, but I will say, look, the young guy stepped up yesterday, Lennon Sosa, or how do you say his name? I was going to say Lennon Sosa, of course, he had a 3-1 home run that helped rally them. They were down, I think, about like 5-1 or something like that. So
yeah, 5-2,
5-2, something like that. Well, like I said, I was watching the BMW Championship after the Cub game was over. I had no intention to watch the White Sox, but
I understand.
Right, I know you understand what I'm coming for. Yeah, 5-2. Lennon Sosa came back. 3-run home run to help solidify that the go ahead run. And even though Dylan Cease did struggle in that game, definitely not his best game of the season so far. But you did what you're supposed to. You did what you could. To salvage a win in that series. Okay, now you gotta face Seattle, one of the highest teams in baseball. We'll get to them in a second, and one of the highest hitters in baseball too. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, what did you think, Sid? I mean, I'll let you have the floor for this.
Well, one, they got embarrassed on Friday. Saturday, they looked like dead men walking. Sunday, they decided to wake up, i.e., their bats. It was nice to see Andrew Vaughn hit that home run there as we came back with the highlights there. Of course, Lennon Sosa, he was up here last year, but due to injuries, and he didn't get as much playing time as people would like because the Sox were actually in the pennant race, even though they were terrible last year too. But as you mentioned, I told this to a couple of people last night, you need to let the young guys play and to see what they have going into next year, whether they're going to be competitive next year or not. One of those guys is Lennon Sosa. I'm not going to put a Hall of Fame jacket on him or anything like that, but Elvis Andrus, he's been a good soldier. He provided an instant spark last year when he was signed around this time last year because of the injury to Tim Anderson, but his time has come. He doesn't need to suffer anymore on a bad team. Thank you very much for the memories. Thank you very much for that home run jacket, but let Lennon Sosa play. Trace Thompson, I don't think I love your father, love your older brother Clay, but I don't think it's going to work out here. I wish you the best, but I don't think he's going to be part of the White Sox future. Of course, he was part of that Lance Lynn and Joe Kelly trade back on August 1st. But let the young guys play to see what you have going into next year, and maybe they can play spoiler. I think they'll do that to some extent. We still have less than a month and a half to go in the season, so let's see what this White Sox team is made of. They say try to avoid 100 losses.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. I know that just release Elvis Andrus. Maybe he can Andrus and let him go to maybe a contender or something. Let Sosa play some of the other young guys. So I would say I feel the same way you just said about Sosa. So, but on the flip side here.
Laced into center field, and that one short hops, and it skips past, and racing for third is Nico Horner. He's coming around, and he's coming in. It happens up on third. How about that? Suzuki.
Right now, he is trending to have almost identical numbers this year as he did last year.
In the air, left field. Suzuki gets a hold of one, and it's gone. Sale will touch them all, and the Cubs add a run. It's 3-1. Here's Miguel Amaya.
Deep drive to left off the bat of Amaya. This ball's got a chance. Gone. Long home run for the rookie catcher Miguel Amaya, and the Cubs lead 4-1.
And those highlights are from both the Marquee Network and from 670 Score, the radio version. So, Sid, I mean, the Royals, yes, they were a pain. I know I know like the Sox are trying to play spoiler too. I mean, was it an annoying, yeah, was it annoying? They lost a tough one on Friday, but look, you did what you're supposed to do those last two games. You win 2 out of 3. I mean, look, you're gonna have to really kind of grind it out for some of these teams that want to play spoilers. So yeah, was it hard? Yes. Was it annoying? Yes. But you did what you had to do when you won 2 out of 3 against the Royals. So you'll take it if you're the Cubs.
Yeah, as we said on our last show on Friday, we'll keep saying this here until the end of the regular season. Most of the teams that are out of the playoff chase, they're going to play their hardest to affect seeding for those teams that are competing for the playoffs and those division winners as well, to try to alternate the playoff fields. So those games against lesser opponents, lesser than 500 teams, are just as important as the ones against teams that are equal and better than you. Now, as we said all season long about the Chicago Cubs, it starts with their starting pitching. And Justice Steele, who is now 4-10-3 on the season, he's going to lead that starting staff because Marcus Stroman is going to miss the next few starts here. But Justin Steele had a great game on Saturday. He punched out 7. Kyle Hendricks got him back on track yesterday. He pitched to 6 in the 3rd innings. He struck out 3. But as I said before, and we'll say it again, it all starts with that starting pitching for the Cubs. If they get great starting pitching, their offense should help them out. And we saw that in the last 2 games against Kansas City. Seiya Suzuki is the highlight you played there. I said he needs to get going. Looks like he's starting to get going with that bat. Shout out to rookie outfielder Miguel Amaya. Looks like he's going to be a future part of the future for this Cubs team. Cody Bellinger hit another belly bomb on Saturday. So that offense for the Cubs, you shouldn't be worried about. Like I said before, as long as they starting pitching stays healthy, I think they'll be okay. Now, Javier Assad looks like he's still going to stay in that starting rotation, taking up Marcus Stroman's spot because of Stroman's injuries. But as long as you give him 4 or 5 innings and he can keep the Cubs in it, you're going to be okay. Drew Smiley, wherever you get out of him at this point, is gravy. But if you're a Cubs fan, yes, like you said, it was heartbreaking on Friday, but you came back in short order, turned it around quickly to win that series against Kansas City, a team that you should have swept, but you still took the series 2 games out of 3.
I mean, yeah, like you didn't gain any ground, but you didn't lose any ground either. So if you're a Cubs fan, you'll take that. So it's fine. But like you said, I mean, it was Friday was a tough loss, but you know what, you came back and won it. Yeah, you had to come back. I think that Saturday game they had to come back, but that's fine if you're the Cubs. You're still right there within striking distance of the division, and you're now, if my memory serves, you're right there in the wild card chase. So you have the third. You're in that third wild card spot all by yourself. Considering what some of the other teams did over the weekend. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I mean, look, you're going to be going to Detroit to face the Tigers. You should be able to at least win. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, you're in a kind of a soft part of your scheduling, so I don't know if you're going to be able to, to win all the games in Detroit. That's going to be that's going to be tough to do up there. But look, if you just win the series, that's all you can do at this point. Win 2 out of 3. Then you have Pittsburgh. You've done well against Pittsburgh this year. 3 out of 4. Try to sweep. Then is when you're going to start, getting into like the nitty gritty of it. We are playing the Brewers and playing Cincy. So. And San Francisco and the Diamondbacks, you're hoping to kind of do something after that. So, it kind of sets up nicely for them to gain some ground. And I feel like, look, just be consistent. You're not going to be able to control what the other teams do, but just stay consistent and you can do your thing.
Yeah, and that's the key for the Colts right now. Avoid any more major injuries. Just stay consistent with the offense. And like I said, the starting pitching has to be consistent as well. As you mentioned, they hit the easiest part of their schedule. It'll be great for them to sweep Detroit. They have 2 night games, one tonight, one tomorrow. Of course, the day game on Wednesday on getaway day before they head to Pittsburgh for 4. So for this road trip, you have 3 in Detroit, 4 in Pittsburgh. I don't think is too much of an expectation to expect a 5-2 road trip. At worst, 4-3. I think 5-2. Like I said, 5-2 is the ceiling. Of course, you want to win all some. That's not going to happen. Let's be realistic. Right. But I think 5-2 is the ceiling. 4-3 is the floor.
I think if you're, just win 4-3 might be a little disappointing. I would say just get to 5-2, 6-1. You may not be able to win all of them. Like you said, that's going to be tough to do. But I feel like if you just win 5 out of 7 or 6 out of 7, then you can kind of be right there. Maybe you can gain a game or 2 against Milwaukee. So, just keep it one series at a time, one game at a time, and don't look ahead. I think that's going to be the key, especially when we get to that Pittsburgh series coming up later this week.
Yeah. Going around the diamonds, around the rest of Major League Baseball, Lakina, your Seattle Mariners went into Houston quietly over the weekend, but they came out with a bang. They swept the defending world champs, even at that silly beanball war on Saturday. Javier, I forget his name, Valdez, who threw the no-hitter earlier in the season. Yeah, he lost the draw. I think he hit Rodriguez. I think he was the batter, but and then there's a little beanball war that started, and then it broke up quickly. Thank goodness it didn't get any worse. But yesterday, Seattle jumped out to a big lead, but Houston came back and nearly won that game. But Seattle held on to complete the sweep. Lakina, as we talked about for the last week or so, they were doing it very quietly, but they made a big, loud boom over the weekend. And now they're in the division race with the Astros in the AL West. The Texas Rangers didn't help their own causes either. They get swept by the Milwaukee Brewers.
Well, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot, Texas. You could help the Cubs out a little bit. But, on the bright side for me, Seattle fan me. I mean, Julio Rodriguez, had a great outing in that. Actually had a great last 4 games. Since 1900, he recorded 13 hits in a 3-game span. He's only one of 7 players to do that, and also record 4 stolen bases. So that's just amazing what he's been able to do. He's one of the reasons why. Well, he had 14 hits and 5 stolen bases in that, that span, that 4-game span, including that sweep against Houston. I did not see that coming. So that was amazing. Their pitching was really solid. Suarez, hit a 2-run home run for the Mariners to complete that sweep. So that was just, amazing. Their pitch has been really good too. So, Eugenio Suarez has been really good. Their pitcher Hancock. I mean, that might be something to look out for. Emerson Hancock. I mean, he had to exit his start on Saturday, so that's something to look for as well. But their pitch has been okay. Hasn't been great, but on Friday though, that looked really good. I mean, Bryce Miller looked really good, in that Friday start to kind of, cement that. They kept the Astros at bay there. So, aside from the little brouhaha that almost happened there between, they don't like each other. Of course, these are AL West rivals, but look, you're taking this. If you're the Mariners, I mean, they're only 3 games back as we're recording this of Texas. So you call that Texas Brewers series that it might be a little tough for Texas, and sure enough, they got swept by the Brewers.
Yeah, you look at Texas right now. Max Scherzer, he lost another start over the weekend, but I think he's still going to be okay for Texas. I know they're going through a little rough stretch right now, but I think manager Bruce Bochy, and that's what happens when you have a veteran manager in your dugout. You're supposed to guide these young guys to say that, hey, these things are going to happen, but you got to pick it up and get going, because you have not 1 but 2 teams chasing after you with Houston and now Seattle coming along. So they're in the pennant race. I'm talking about Texas now. I still believe they're a playoff team, but they got to get it going, and they got have some other starting pitchers other than Matt Scherzer to step up for them in that rotation. Now, on the flip side for the Houston Astros, they got to get it together with their starting pitching. They still have a great bullpen. They still have a great lineup, as we mentioned, with Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez, both of them returning for injuries for the last few weeks. It looks like Jose Abreu's starting to pick his spots to where he delivers big hits. So it's going to be a great AL West race going through the month of September. And I hope it comes down to the last day of the season. As of right now, it looks like it's going to turn out that way.
They all play each other too those next few weeks, so it's going to be very interesting to see who's coming out at division. Now, stay on the flip side though, the AL West. The Angels, our buddy Chris Gilman, our girl Chrissy Manica's fiance, lost 18-4 in that rubber match against the Rays, and they're losing ground pretty quick. I'm talking about the Angels, and that's the 14-1 loss, their largest loss at home since 2009. So, and we're already seeing that Shohei Ohtani is not going to pitch anymore this year. So, do you think they sit him the rest of the year? Because it's gonna look, they're not really playing much for anything right now. So, what do you think they're going to do?
I don't think Shohei Ohtani is going to sit for the entire year. You have a little bit over a month left. Like you said, we talked about this on Friday. He shouldn't pitch anymore this year because he's coming up on free agency. He wants to be his best self in terms of health wise, because he's going to get paid, whether it's by the Angels or someone else. I think it's going to be someone else personally. But you got to put yourself in the best position possible. You got to look out for yourself, and that's what Shohei is doing right now. Can he continue to play in terms of being that DH? Yes, but I wouldn't pitch him anymore this year, and which is smart. Like you said, the Angels are quickly falling out of the race. I'm not going to blame it on this one person, but the acquisition of Lucas Giolito hasn't really worked out for him. He's only 1-3 since he was traded from the White Sox. He has an ERA over 7, I believe it. So that's one of the main problems. Plus, they had injuries all throughout their roster throughout the whole year. So, and that's been another factor as well. So if you show ahead of time, you got to look out for yourself. I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah, I don't either. So we'll see what happens with that. Going to the NL for a second, to the West. The Dodgers bounced back from being, I don't want to say embarrassed, but they lost 11-3 in that first game against the Marlins. They did win the next two by the identical score of 3-1. And they've now, I think they've won like 14 of their last 15. I know like 9 of their last 10. So that's a really cool. They're starting to kind of pull away from that NL West division. And Mookie Betts even gave LeBron a shout out, in that Saturday game. That was actually pretty funny. But it was actually interesting. They're starting to kind of get going. I know we'll see. They actually play on the road. They play against Cleveland, so they don't have to worry if they're kind of out of the way of that storm. That I know I saw some photos from Dodger Stadium. They look like they're a little bit underwater right now, so we'll see if they clear that up by the time they get back. But everyone's safe, and accounted for, which is the most important thing. But yeah, I mean that. That Marlins didn't help themselves. You thought that maybe they could probably at least win the series, but they ended up losing the next two.
Yeah, we talk about the Florida Marlins. They're a young team. I know they made some acquisitions at the trade deadline, but they're hanging on by a thread right now. They're battle with the Cubs and the Phillies for those 3 wild card spots in the National League. And so they're going through this for the first time as well. Now back to the Dodgers. They're trying to hold off 2 teams, the San Diego Padres and the San Francisco Giants. That team lost 2 out of 3 in Atlanta this weekend. But we talked about it all year long, Lakina. This Dodgers team, they're a very different roster than what we've seen in years past, and definitely what we've seen last year when they won 111 games, going away with the NL West title before bowing out to the Padres in that divisional round. New castmates with Lance Lynn and James Outman. Of course, Joe Kelly, he was part of that Lance Lynn trade for the White Sox as well. Manager Dave Roberts has done his best managing job, in my opinion, all year long. You have a new group of guys that have to lead this young group and this new core into the winning culture. And also to shout out to Jason Hayward as well, the former Cub from the 2016 team. His stats doesn't jump out at you, but he's really made a big impact both on and off the field.
Yes, he really has. He kind of brings that extra leadership too. So yeah, I think that they're starting to figure it out. The Dodgers are starting to figure it out too. So we'll see if they can keep it up there. What happens now? Your not your twins, but the Minnesota Twins, they win 2-3 against the Pirates. So they're starting to pull away in that AL Central. And we all know that. Look, we've been making fun of the AL Central. It's comedy. But no, look, you got to think that the Twins have kind of stayed consistent. I mean, they're not sweeping teams, but look, I know that they lost 3 out of. I know that Cleveland has not looked good. We know this how bad the Sox have been, but the Twins are just chugging along. They went 2 out of 3 against the Pirates. They split their series against the mini 2-gamer against Detroit. They went 2 out of 3 against Philly. So they're being consistent. So they've actually been pretty solid. So especially thanks to Dallas Keuchel. He took a perfect game to the 7th inning yesterday. So you got a little bit of the old Dallas Keuchel from Houston. So
and that'll be his last moment of glory in a Major League Baseball uniform. So congratulations to him on that. And number 2, the Minnesota Twins are the best looking ugly girl from an ugly girl group. Congratulations on you winning that division, but you're going to get your ass bounced in the playoffs. So I'll leave it at that. You can call it Sox hate or whatever, but the truth should be told, not so. Now, back to other important teams that matter. The Toronto Blue Jays, they take 2 out of 3 from the Cincinnati Reds. Even though the Reds had that great 1-0 win on Friday night, the Toronto Blue Jays bats broke up the last 2 days, including hitting 5 dingers yesterday to take the series in the Queen Cities, taking 2 out of 3.
Yeah, they they lit up Hunter Green and look. I mean, I know their pitch is not exactly a lot, not exactly much to be written about, but their bats definitely make up and pick up the slack for them. So I think that definitely helps them. Hung Jin-Ryu had another great start for the first time. Yeah, that's his first consecutive wins for the since leaving for Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. So he's starting to kind of look like the old Hyun Jin-Ryu of old, and they kind of kept it at bay. And look, I mean, look, they're leading the wild card, right? Well, they're second in the wild card, the AL wild card. So 8.5 back of Baltimore. I know Baltimore did not have a great week this weekend, but look, I think Toronto, I think they're a team that can definitely make some noise, and perhaps maybe, if they get to the playoffs. And perhaps, look, they play Baltimore starting tomorrow. So looking forward to that series. We'll talk about that in a second. But Toronto has looked really good. I mean, look, again, they have been kind of inconsistent all year, but they're kind of right where they want to be at this time.
Yeah, staying with the AL East race. The New York Yankees, for those that don't believe that they're not going to the playoffs this year, take a look at the series this past weekend from the Boston Red Sox. Like I said, I think Boston eventually is going to fall short, but they took advantage of the Yankees' bad starting pitching. And I said no Aaron Judge, no playoffs for the Yankees. No offense, no playoffs for the Yankees. And you saw that this weekend as the Boston Red Sox completed a 3-game sweep in the Bronx. The Yankees, during their current losing streak, they're only averaging 2.8 runs per game, and their team ERA is almost 7.
So much for that team.
That's pretty damn bad.
Yeah, I mean, so much for that team meeting they had on Friday, right before that series. I mean,
right.
You thought that maybe, they're starting to get going, but no, not so much. So one of the heads should be rolling down there, up there in the Bronx. So we'll see what happens. They're going to schedule for this week.
One more game, Lakina, real quick. Washington took 2 out of 3 from Philadelphia this weekend, including winning that Little League Classic last night in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I did check out some of the highlights of that game. As we said on Friday, it was nice for them to perform in front of the Little League kids.
That was really
I know
cool.
the MLB's been doing it for the last few years, but it was awesome to see that once again last night.
Yeah, especially with their local team, Phillies, I think, about 2-3 hours, outside sports. So we'll talk a little bit about I guess we'll talk about a little bit of the Little League World Series later on. But, that was a really cool moment. You saw how, especially on the international side, the eyes lit up. So that's really nice to see. So that was really cool. But unfortunately, not so much if you're a Phillies fan. You lose 2 out of 3 to Washington. Now help yourselves there in the wild card race. So, gonna be interesting though. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Now going into the scheduling. Cubs and Tigers, of course, we talked about that. The first game up. Speaking of the Phillies, they face San Francisco. That's probably going to be an elimination game, I'm sure, in the wild card race. St. Louis and Pittsburgh. Yankees and Braves. You thought maybe earlier in the year, people thought that this could have been a World Series preview earlier in the year. Not so much now. We'll see. I know Atlanta didn't have their best well, I mean, they did okay. I mean, they took 2 out of 3 against San Fran, but they were a little bit rusty yesterday. We'll see what happens there. Now, Boston and Houston needs to get there. I'm sure they want to get that bad taste getting swept by Seattle out of their mouth. So,
yes,
nice little pickup there. Mariners and the White Sox. The first game of that series will be on FS1. Assuming it's not blacked out here in Chicago. Oakland, and Kansas City as well.
Of course, wrapping up the schedule for tonight, you have the Texas Rangers at the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks took 3 out of 4 in San Diego over the weekend. You'll have the Miami Marlins at the San Diego Padres wrapping up tonight's schedule. Now, of the series, there will be kicking off tomorrow. Of course, you mentioned about the Cubs and Tigers. That'll be the second game of that series tomorrow. Colorado at Tampa Bay. We have the San Francisco Giants at Philadelphia to take on the Phillies. The Blue Jays and the Baltimore Orioles will do battle there in the Beltway City tomorrow. I definitely cannot wait for that. And the Washington Nationals will travel upstate on the Greyhound bus to New York City to face the New York Yankees. Of course, you have the Cardinals and the Pirates, the Dodgers and the Guardians. Let's see. And the Cincinnati Reds and the Anaheim Angels will start their series tomorrow. They were supposed to start their series tonight, but because of the storms in Southern California, that the opening game will be postponed and tonight's game will be made up on Wednesday.
All right, that should be.
And Twins and Brewers will play tomorrow too.
I'm about to say, yeah, Twins and Brewers too. Yeah, don't forget about that. Go Twins! Come on, Twins! Help us out here. That is your schedule for this weekend. This early part of this weekend, MLB.
Yeah, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you listen to the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We have another top 10 list that I dug up from the World Wide Web from over the weekend regarding the National Football League. We'll have Lakina's update on golf in the Little League. And plus, we'll wrap up the show with Old School TV Monday, plus a whole lot more nuggets and fun and perhaps a couple of news tidbits from the sports media world. You're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
Six. 566 5187.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're so
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
All right, folks. Apologize for all the technical difficulties. That's a little weird.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on this Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kim again on the Twitter, X, and Kim again, the IG.
We have less than 50 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, we at Sports Zone Chicago, you could catch us live in living color on Roku TV.
All right, Sid, where do you want to go? Because there's so many places that we can go here. Where do you want to go?
Let's go back to the world of the NFL. I caught this article over the weekend, courtesy of Cody Benjamin of CBSSports.com. He has all 32 coaches ranked from 32 to number 1. But just for time purposes, we'll go through we'll go through number 10 up to number 1. Starting at number 10 for top 10 coaches in the National Football League. Number 10, Doug Peterson of the Jacksonville Jaguars checks in. He's in his second year with the team, 7th year overall as a head coach. He has a career record of 51 wins, 45 losses in the tie. He is 5-3 in his career in the playoffs with 1 Super Bowl. Of course, his Jaguars had the second largest comeback in NFL history, defeating the Los Angeles Chargers last year at home in the wild card round of the playoffs. Number 9, Pete Carroll of the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, he did wonders with Geno Smith last year. Geno Smith went to the Pro Bowl with 30 touchdown passes. And, of course, Seattle lost in the wild card round to the San Francisco 49ers. Number 8, Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos. Of course, he's in his first year with the Denver Broncos. And of course, he's in his 16th year as a head coach overall. Career record for Sean Payton, 152 wins, 89 losses. In his career in the playoffs, 9-8 overall, including 1 Super Bowl in 2009.
Yeah, I like that list so far. I mean, you got to think that, especially, I know a lot of people are going to be asking a lot of Peyton, so since he brings the experience and whatnot. So I'm wondering how's he going to do so far with that offense, and he can turn Russell Wilson around.
And also, too, can you change the whole culture around with the Broncos as well? A lot is going to be asked of Doug Peterson this year, Lakina, because remember that team came out of nowhere last year. I had them going to the playoffs. No one had them win that garbage AFC South. The Tennessee Titans floundered toward the end of the regular season. The Colts were rebuilding, and they still are right now. And that the AFC South division technically on paper is for Jacksonville's to lose, but we'll see how they respond this year because all the expectation, the eyes are going to be on them this year. Now, continuing with the list from Cody Benjamin from CBSSports.com as the top coaches in the NFL to watch for this year. Number 7, Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills. He's in his 7th year with the team. His career record is 62 wins and 35 losses. In the playoffs, he is 4-5. Lakina, Buffalo's been knocking on the door these last few years. Last year was very disappointing, losing in a divisional round to the Cincinnati Bengals. Lakina, there's a whole lot more pressure on them this year, and you don't get too many chances with a special group of players like this. So I think I'm not going to say this is this year or bust, but it's getting very close for Mr. McDermott and coming up there in Buffalo.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially with Naheem Hines. He's out now. I just saw on Twitter here, Twitter X, that they just signed Tyler Johnson, a veteran running back. So that you got to think he's going to be the third down back. So you don't have to worry about Josh Allen leading the team in rushing anymore, Sid. So I think that
hopefully,
hopefully that won't be the case. But yeah, I mean, that AFC East is going to be a lot tougher this year. A lot, except of the Jets. The Jets especially, I think that they're going to get a lot of challenges for him. And maybe even New England too. Who knows? Maybe Miami. I mean, I feel like, this could be, I'm not going to say that they're going to be in a tougher division. I'm talking about the Bills, but they're going to have to earn. They're going to have to earn this year in the AFC East. We'll talk more when we get to our previews, but they're definitely going to get a lot of fight from the other teams in their division.
Yes, as you mentioned, it's going to be very competitive this year. And let's not forget what the surrounding drama going on with the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen's right elbow injury that they tried to hide last year. Is that thing completely healthy going into this year? Of course, Stephon Diggs is dealing with his own issues. Once again, we saw that play out in Minnesota. That's why he's in Buffalo right now. Could he do the same thing to go to another team? We shall see if things don't turn out well for Buffalo. And isn't Von Miller still out to start the year? Because as we said last year, his injury really affected that Buffalo Bills defense, especially against the run.
I think he is out still. I'm not sure. I'll double check, but I don't think he's practiced yet. I don't think.
Okay.
I have to double check, but yeah, that seems to be the case with Von Miller.
Okay, number 6, Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is in year 17 with the team, 17 years as head coach. His career record, 163 wins, 93 losses, and 2 ties. He is 8-9 in the playoffs and 1-1 in Super Bowls. Of course, we talked about last year, Lakina. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Of course, he started Mitch Trubisky last year to start the year. The former Chicago Bear quarterback, he threw him on the bench and put in rookie, now second-year guy Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett looked good last year, almost made the playoffs so far. Pickett has looked great this year in the preseason and limited action. But for Mike Tomlin, can he achieve another winning season, perhaps be one of those surprise teams this year?
I mean, look, it could happen. I mean, just to clean up my Von Miller stuff, he is close, so we'll see what that means. He could be out another 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, as far as going back to the Steelers for a minute here, I think, look, he's not had, Tomlin has not had a losing season since he's been there. So you gotta think that even with the struggles that they had last year, I mean, look, they've got the players. I mean, they got Pickett, they've got Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson. They got Allen Robinson. They picked him up through free agency. T.J. Watt. I know he's had his struggles, with some injuries last year. He's back. So I'm wondering, could they? Don't forget Joey Porter Jr. He had a pretty nice showing yesterday in the home opener. I'm sure there were a lot of Pittsburgh fans that were happy about that. You saw his dad there. He gave him his jersey after the game. That was a really cool moment. But yeah, I mean, look, I think they could they perhaps maybe be a little bit of a surprise in the AFC North? Probably. I mean, look, if they pick, it's got to be consistent. The defense has to be really solid too. So I'm thinking that maybe could they perhaps maybe surprise people in the AFC North? I don't know if they're going to win the division, but I think they could definitely make a case for one of the wild card spots.
As you mentioned, the AFC North is going to be a very competitive division as well this year. We talked about the AFC East just a couple of minutes ago. The AFC North could be competitive as well. You have Cincinnati, you have Cleveland, of course. You mentioned Baltimore with Lamar Jackson now getting fresh paper, and of course Pittsburgh. So we'll see what happens with that. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. Lakina here with you as we review the article from Cody Benjamin, courtesy of CBSSports.com, bringing the NFL head coaches from 32 to 1 for the 2023 season. Of course, we're going through the top 10 names first. Checking in at number 5, John Harbaugh of the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens. He's in his 16th year as a head coach and 16th year with the team. Career record 147-95, 11-9 in the playoffs, including 1-0 in Super Bowls. That was back in 2012. We talked about Lamar Jackson being back with the team. Now, you saw what happened last year as Lamar Jackson missed almost the entire second half of the year. Of course, they lost a close one, talking about Baltimore to Cincinnati in the wild card round last year. So they picked up OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr. for those of you scoring at home. And, of course, they have a couple of new running backs as well, including my guy, J.K. Dobbins, who's returning from injury. There's a whole lot more pressure going to be on Baltimore this year. And with Cincinnati being that contending team in terms of a Super Bowl the last couple of years, Baltimore trying to get up to that level as well.
And I think that the key is going to be Lamar Jackson's health. I think he's looked okay this preseason. I know they don't want to overextend him, but you got OBJ, you got Zay Flowers, who they drafted. So I think that I've said it from Boston College. Like I said, I think he's just going to be probably one of the steals from this year's draft. Of course, you got Mark Andrews, so he'll have some time to spread the ball around. The O-line is going to be sort of like the big question mark there. They just signed Jadeveon Clowney, so I think they'll definitely shore off that that's that front seven. And the secondary is going to be a big question mark too. Marcus Peters isn't there anymore, so That's going to be the number one question there too. You're going to be a lot of youth going to be in that secondary. Of course, they got Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, so that's going to be a second rounder. So you got to wonder he's going to be on those guys. I know Marlon Humphrey's going to be out for a little bit. That's why they brought in Clowney. So yeah, that's going to be really going to be the key here, and try to get those how those new guys are going to mesh up with a little bit of the youth, and also too, of course, you got Roquan Smith there as well with the veteran status. So that's really going to be like the key here.
Yeah. Checking in at number 4, Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams. He's in his 7th year with the team, 7th year overall as a head coach. His career record, 60 wins and 38 losses, 73 in the playoffs, 1-1 in Super Bowls. Of course, we all saw what happened last year, Lakina, after winning the Super Bowl the year before. Injuries up and down the roster, including quarterback Matthew Stafford, ineffectiveness of wide receiver Allen Robinson. Like you mentioned, they cut it, and Pittsburgh picked up now Aaron Donald, the best defensive player, defensive lineman perhaps in the NFL. He was injured last year as well. Of course, they finished the year last year at 5-12, but this team is looking forward to returning to prominence this year. Like you said, we'll get more deeper into it once we get into our divisional previews coming up here, starting with our next show this coming Friday. But remember, they also traded Jalen Ramsey as well to the Miami Dolphins. This team is in salary cap hell. They're going through a transition right now.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp's still out too. Of course, he is supposed to practice this week, so that might be, that could help him out a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh my God, it's going to be like over and done with the Rams. I think they still got players. They still got talent. I mean, they were actually close to making the playoffs last year. So, it wasn't for some bad luck, luck with injuries especially. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those young players are gonna mesh. I mean, there have been rumors that maybe this might be Aaron Donald's last year. He's been kind of floating around about possibly retirement the last couple of years. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But like I said, we'll get deeper into it, but we get to the previews. But yeah, that's gonna be the number one question here.
Yep. And remember, Sean McVay was really close to hanging it up last year at the conclusion of last season. Checking in at number 3, Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots. 29th year as a head coach, 24th season with New England. Career record, 298 and 152. Of course, with 2 victories this year, which he should get. He'll have career win number 300. He's 31-13 in the playoffs, including 6-3 in the Super Bowls. We talked about the AFC East earlier. New England, on paper, should finish last, but they got to get that quarterback situation correct. It looks like he's going with Mac Jones, but who else do they have left at the position? I don't know. I know they picked up Ezekiel Elliott in this offseason in the last couple of weeks. I like their defense. It's a young, hungry, active defense, but they really got to put some points on the board.
I think that's going to be the number one question there too. I mean, you got Ramondre Stevenson, who's one of the probably, if not quietly, probably one of the top running backs in the league. I know they picked up Hunter Henry. I know they picked up, like you said, Zeke, Devontae Parker, and also don't forget Juju Smith-Schuster signed with them as well. So you got will they have the quarterback? I'm talking about Matt Jones to kind of give those guys the ball. So that's going to be another thing. And we talk about the defense too. I mean, Matthew Judon is probably the most well known of all the guys on that defense. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they're not going to be the hunters anymore. They're going to be the hunted. So people are not going to be able to surprise them like they were able to last year. So that's going to be the big question here.
All right, the number 2 coach ranked according to Corey Benjamin's article in CBSSports.com. Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers. He's in his 7th year with the team, 7th year as a head coach overall. Career record, 52 wins, 46 losses, 6-3 in the playoffs, 0-1 Super Bowls. Of course, the 49ers lost terribly in the NFC Championship game last year to the eventual conference champion Philadelphia Eagles on the road. Of course, we know what happened with the starter Brock Purdy last year. He was lost due to injury during that NFC Championship game. But of course, the injury to Trey Lance last year, which set up Brock Purdy to take his spot. Now this year, Lakina, Kyle Shanahan has a problem on this sense. He has 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Of course, with Trey Lance in the aforementioned Brock Purdy, you still have Sam Darnold, who looked pretty good in that last preseason game over the weekend against Denver. The 49ers defense is still strong. Of course, you still have Christian McCaffrey, who's starting his first full season with the team. But that defense, Lakina, is still very good, but it's not going to be for too much longer before age and injury start to creep up on them.
Yeah, Nick Bosa too. I know they've been able to finally actually work the contract stuff out, but that's going to be injuries for him. Fred Warner. I know another veteran, so I think that he's going to be interesting to see how he looks this year. Tashawn Gibson, that's going to be another name that's going to be hearing a lot this year as well. Trent Williams. I mean, I don't want to say Mr. All Reliable because I feel like he's been around forever. The left tackle there. Kind of feels away. George Kittle, of course. Don't forget about him. Brandon Ayuk. So yeah, there's a lot of guys that could probably, Jawan James just signed with them as well. So that gives Purdy or Lance, however you want to look at it, an extra sort of, guy to kind of be able to throw to. Deebo Samuel, we'll see how he looks, how much he's been used. He's been used a lot these last few years, both as a running back and as a receiver. And also too with the QB situation, of course, when Purdy got hurt in the NFC Championship game, of course, you got guys that weren't, warmed up. So I'm sure, Kyle Shanahan actually learned that lesson. I'm sure he'll probably take 3 quarterbacks. I know, like the lesson is to take only 2, but I think you better take 3. You got 3, good ones here. So the question is going to be who's going to be the number 2 guy. So that's going to be the number 1 question here. So yeah, we'll see what happens. San Fran, they'll get their wins and such, but it's going to be tough in the NFC West. But you got to wonder, okay, who's going to be kind of like the number 2 guy behind Purdy? But we'll see how Purdy was coming back from injury too.
Yep, checking in at number 1 as far as the NFL ranking NFL head coaches, according to Cody Benjamin from CBSSports.com. Number 1, of course, is Andy Reid of the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is in his 11th year with Kansas City, 24th year overall as head coach. His career record: 247 wins, 138 losses, and 1 tie. Playoff record: 22-16, including 2-2 in Super Bowls. Lakina, this is a future Hall of Fame coach. As we saw what happened last year, especially when Patrick Mahomes injured his ankle in that second round game against Jacksonville. Andy Reid, I thought, did some of his best coaching work at that time, using Mahomes' strength with that bad ankle. Their defense has stepped up over the last couple of years, and you see why they have won 2 Super Bowls out of the last 4 years.
Yeah, I wouldn't have blamed him if he had decided to retire, but look, I know he loves coaching, he loves football, so he's a football lifer. So you were gonna get him to retire. You got to probably have to drag him kicking and screaming. But you gotta wonder though, will age be an issue, especially with Travis Kelce? He even admitted that he's 32 now. You gotta wonder how much he's got left in the tank. And I know that Chris Jones, I know that there's some salary issues going on with them. So
taking a look at some of the other coaches just left out of the top 10 list. Number 11, Matt LaFleur of the Green Bay Packers. Of course, now that he no longer has Aaron Rodgers, he's going to have Jordan Love at the helm. Remember, as you said, Lakina, the Packers have a very good defense, but it's all going to be left up to the arm of Jordan Love. And number 12, Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. And last year, he took the Eagles helped take the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Of course, you have quarterback Jalen Hurts leading that charge. Of course, the second half, Sirianni didn't make any adjustments defensively. They should have won that game. But those are the top two coaches that were left out of the top 10 list.
As if I could finish my Chris Jones thought for a second, you wonder, will that be an attraction, during the season? So I think, the contract stuff. Now, as far as the other coach, I know that Nick Sirianni, I know that, he's got a lot of new, you've got Hurts into the fold now. You just have him locked down for the next few years. So that stuff is going to help them. They've got definitely some new faces, but also too, you still got some, other guys.
Yeah, we cannot hear Lakina right now. So we'll get some of the other names of the head coaches on this list. Now, according to Cody Benjamin of CBSSports.com, number 13 was Mike Vrabel of the Tennessee Titans. 14 was Zach Taylor of Cincinnati. Of course, we talked about Cincinnati being the leaders of the NFC North division. Brian Daboll was at number 15 for the New York Football Giants. Of course, rounding up the bottom of the list was Matt Eberflus of the Chicago Bears. Of course, there's some optimism surrounding the Bears both locally and a little bit nationally. Of course, Matt Eberflus is a defensive guy, and he has a very young roster ahead for the Chicago Bears. And you take a look at some of the players that they drafted or they picked up in free agency and via the draft of the last couple of years. We'll see if the Bears can make some improvements there, as hopefully we can bring Lakina back to the program. Lakina, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I think apparently that's been a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm talking about Matt Eberflus. He was ranked as the last head coach on the Cody Benjamin's list, courtesy of CBSSports.com. He's the last ranked head coach on his list. But we were talking about Nick Sirianni of Philadelphia and the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, Mr. Matt LaFleur. There's going to be a whole lot of pressure on those two gentlemen this year, especially Matt. Yeah. Let's start with Matt LaFleur first.
Well, yeah, I think LaFleur's probably has.
Leading.
Yeah, I think that LaFleur probably has the most pressure. I know that Sirianni, he just got back from a Super Bowl appearance. But look, as I was finishing up, apparently I guess you couldn't hear me. But look, you got a nice little mixture. You got some guys have departed, but you still got the bulk of the guys. You got Hurts, you got Jason Kelsey. The defense has been beat the two, especially with drafting of Jalen Carter. So that could only help them. He's got guys like Fletcher Cox and Josh Sweat, and those guys and Terrell Edmonds too to kind of help, and Bradbury to help him out. So don't worry about that. Now, as far as the Packers are concerned, the defense actually been pretty solid. It's really gonna be Jordan Love's gonna be the number one question for that. So that's gonna be the issue for the Packers. Now, as far as the Bears are concerned, I think yes, the Bears picked up a lot of guys during the season, over the offseason, but you wonder how is everyone going to mesh. Now, so far, so good. We'll see how they do against, actual competition. So I'm sure he'll, it's a little weird that he's near the bottom, but I can kind of see why, especially last year. But, I'm looking forward to seeing how Eberflus looks, coaches in year two, because you got to wonder, they got a better roster now. So now it's going to be up to him and the rest of that coaching staff.
I know we're up against it, Lakina. Just a couple more names on this list from 32 to 1. Number 22, Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions. And number 23, Brandon Staley, who's apparently on a hot seat from the Los Angeles Chargers, especially after what happened in the playoffs last year. Giving up the second largest lead in playoff history.
Yeah, I think he should be on the hot seat there. So I'm not definitely, if they don't get it together this year, I know that Justin Herbert got his money, so that's going to be the king. So, we'll see what happens with that.
All right. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. We're going to take our 2-2 break to come back and wrap up today's show. We're going to have some sports media news. The PGA Championship took place in our area over the weekend, Lakina. It looks like that event is not going to come back for several years. I couldn't believe what I read and heard. We'll get into that. And plus, we're going to wrap up with Old School TV Mondays. We continue our cartoon series. Yay! That and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday edition. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter X in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow Makina McGee on the Twitter and Makina's going to get on the IG.
We have less than 25 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. This is our last break of the show for today. If you have any last-minute questions or comments, you can hit us up in the comments section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. The best comments and questions will be posted up on the screen by Lakina. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live and on demand on Roku TV.
All right, so let's kick off with some sports media news first. ESPN has announced their new host for their NFL Monday Night Countdown show. Of course, CeeDee Culver did it for many years. Of course, she was let go by the network. Now, of course, we're going to have a new host, and it is not really a big surprise because, of course, there were rumors that he was going to get the job anyway. But it is the ultra cool and fabulous Mr. Scott Van Pelt will take over hosting duties for NFL Monday Night Countdown starting this season. And of course some other but it's not just him who's going to be joining the phrase. There's other names as well. You got Marcus Spears and Ryan Clark will also join the phrase as well as RG3 as well. He's going to be a very busy guy. I'm talking about RG3, Robert Griffin III, of course, for those of you who scoring at home. Also, too, of course, Larry Fitzgerald Jr. and Alex Smith will make multiple appearances throughout the various weeks of the NFL Monday night season. The opener will be at MetLife Stadium for Bills and Jets. So, Sid, what do you think about this news of the new cast?
As you mentioned, the host of the show wasn't surprising. Scott Van Pelt does a great job on the weeknight edition of Sports, and of course, bringing in bad beats, the sports gambling element to the program, which really enhances it. I wonder how much he's going to use that for Monday Night Countdown. I want to see how that's going to incorporate into that pregame show. But as far as the analysts are concerned, I have no problem with that cast. I like Marcus Spears. Like I said, Alex Smith is an intelligent guy. We said this a couple of years ago when he retired, like that he can. Every network was up for his services. Of course, ESPN chose him. And he's done a great job thus far. Hopefully, going to give him more exposure as Monday Night Football starts up in a couple weeks for the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with RG3, and of course we know how smart he is, and Larry was actually pretty smart too. So yeah, I said I have no issue with this. We knew that they were gonna. I think they are. I think from what I think they're saying that they are gonna keep up the bad beats, from whatever that site is. So I think they're still gonna keep that element of it. So I think looking forward to it. So yeah, that should be a whole lot of fun. Any other sports media news? That's probably the really big one that came out this morning. Any other sports media nuggets that you got?
ESPN Radio has announced their weekday lineup. If most of people didn't catch that, but Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, that old morning show has now gone away. It's going to be replaced by Chris Canty and Evan Cohen from 5 to 9 a.m. Chicago time. Of course, my guess is probably the first couple hours will be broadcast live here in Chicago and some of the other big markets too. Of course, from 10 to noon Eastern, that's 9 to 11 a.m., which is Greeny. Hopefully ESPN 1000 doesn't broadcast that show here in Chicago. Give that spot to Amidala and Chris Blake, just saying.
Yes,
and of course, and then of course at from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern time is Chris Carlin and Matt Fortenbaugh, the sports betting guy from ESPN. I like Chris Carlin a lot. He's been doing radio for years, especially locally in New York City. Of course, he's getting national exposure on ESPN Radio, which I'm happy to see him getting some shine. Of course, during the afternoon drive, Freddie Coleman moves from nights to afternoons from 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern. It's him and Harry Douglas, the former NFL wide receiver. And, of course, Amber Wilson and Ian Fitzsimmons from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. for the nighttime drive. So Amber Wilson, the first female in a while, I think, since Sarah Spain to get a show on a primetime show on that network, a daily show on that network.
Yeah, she's really good. I've heard her in the mornings, as I'm working out. So she's really good. I know Amber and Fitz. I think I'm surprised they say Amber and Fitz, but I'm glad that that's my guy, Freddie Coleman. Yeah, I'm glad he's getting this shot at the afternoon drive. He's more than earned. He's been there like about 20 some odd years now, so he's finally getting his due in the morning drive.
He's been there for a long time.
Yeah, him and Harry Douglas, I think, will so great together. Carlin, I actually like Chris Carlin too. I know Joe Fortenbaugh, of course, you've seen him. You listen to him on the radio side. Greeny, the No Shade to Greeny, but they need to kind of get rid of that here in Chicago. I know this is a deal that they made to have to like some of the program from ESPN Chicago, but to ESPN Radio nationally, but still. Kenny Cohen and Smallman, I mean. I'm wondering though. This is a good Carl Bands is taking kind of control of the ESPN Radio now, so I think this hopefully will help refresh that part of it. That's something they really need. So they tried to do the big names that didn't work, so then they're kind of trying to mix it up a little bit. So we'll see what happens with this lineup. But you can still listen to it on ESPN Radio if you got the app. So and I think they have it on YouTube as well. So
yes.
Here in Chicago, if you don't want to take a break from Waddle and Sylvie, no shade to them, but you may want to take a break from that. And
we love them.
Also, if they have like Sox games, of course, that's going to be happening for the next 7 weeks. You can listen to them then as well. But I like the lineup. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, it'll definitely help to kind of revitalize that.
Back to baseball, Lakina. Did you check out any of Saturday? I doubt it, but I saw this clip on YouTube. Did you check out the opening to the Mets telecast between the St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets? Former radio voice, but veteran TV voice, Gary Cohen, made fun of Keith Hernandez's shirt because the Saturday's game was on PIX, Pix 11 in New York City. Of course, that's their version of WGN, like here in Chicago. Keith Hernandez, I guess, had his S&Y shirt on, but he had the old school duct tape patch that says Pix 11 on it. I thought that was very funny, but very creative at the same time.
Yeah, that was funny, but like I said, that was very creative too. So yeah, that was actually pretty funny. But he was Keith was not very happy about that. So I'm wondering, like, okay, yeah, will he get him back? I think that's probably what I'm looking forward to. He's a little bit of a prankster too, Keith Hernandez is. So we'll see if he gets him back.
All right. Before we go on to golf, Lakina, did you check out Spain, the women's soccer team? They won the Women's World Cup over the weekend. What were your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not that surprised. I know some people were surprised by. I mean, they played well. They played consistently all tournament long, and they deserve the win. So that's all I have. I didn't watch any of it, so I have not really much to say about that. I only saw the highlights of it. And I'm sure the Rays, unfortunately, were not very good, especially since the U.S. was eliminated. So I'm sure Fox is going to want to keep that very quiet about the ratings. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. But yeah, congrats to them. This is their first big tournament on the women's side. I know they've won a couple of World Cups on the men's side. So, okay, congrats to them. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I know there's some noise going outside my window. If you can hear it, I apologize. But I want to get back to, as you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, the Monday edition right here on Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you, wrapping up today's show. Turning to the world of golf, the BMW Championship took place in the PGA Golf Tour over the weekend outside of our area, Lakina, in the Chicagoland area. In particular, Olympia Fields, Victor Hovland came out the winner, shooting a -17, beating out Matt Fitzpatrick and American Scotty Scheffler.
Yes, 61 that he shot. I think he had about 12 threes or something. I know someone made a joke that, well, that's more than the Bulls hit one game last year. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not funny, but I know what you're trying to go with that. But yeah, I mean, he hit the ball I feel sick that I forgot to bring up his name on Friday. He was right there. He's been in the top. I don't think he missed a cut this year. So yeah, this is a guy that, of course, he was close to the majors a couple of times. You got to think it's only a matter of time before he wins one. But, you saw that 61, he had 69, 66, 68, and 65, and shot at 61. Now he's second up behind Scheffler, of course, a setup for over at East Lake for the for the Tour Championship in Atlanta. So, sorry if you guys can't hear me. But yeah, I mean, it was actually going to be a great tournament. A lot of people thought it was going to be a playoff, but Hovland, those two birdies that he shot, he said, "Nope, play off this." So yeah, that was a great performance by him. And then now it's all set up for him. It's going to be between him and Scheffler. I think Rory too also has a shot of perhaps winning the $10 million, and Fitzpatrick too.
Yeah, I saw some of the pictures over the weekend for some of our media colleagues here in town. This is some of the friends of this program. Kevin Powell of WGN Radio, of course, Matt Zahn of CBS2 Chicago. They had some great pictures. They covered the event for their stations, and it's too bad that Chicago can't get this event every year. I remember growing up. I'm not the greatest golf fan in the world, but any big time sporting event that comes to the city of Chicago, the Chicagoland area, is always hit with a big buzz. And this year's event, it seems like it didn't disappoint. And it's going to be several years before it returns. At least have it in every other year rotation at least.
Yeah, I know everyone was raving about it. I heard Dottie Pepper, of course, she's a reporter, of course, got a couple of major titles on the LPGA side for CBS. She was raving about the course, and everyone else was raving about it. So I'm a little disappointed. I know we talked about it on Friday. Frank Namo, another veteran CBS golf analyst, said that he wants to. That he wants Chicago and at least the Chicago area, Olympia Fields. I know there's Medina too. They want those courses to be part of the rotation because look, it's not too far from downtown Chicago. It's easy to get to, and it's all right there. So all the players were raving about it. So it's. Look, I'm hoping that changes at some point. Tiger, I'm sure Tiger. I know he said that he likes the course here in the Chicago area too. So I'm hoping that he can kind of get it going. But yeah, I mean, everyone was raving about the course. So, and it was actually well attended. The crowds were actually pretty solid. Even though it was really hot yesterday, and I know people were kind of sweating.
Yes.
I know you saw pit stains there. But yeah, I mean that was a really, but it'll be a really great tournament. It's actually set up well for this weekend's Tour Championship.
Continuing this week is the Little League World Series from Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. I know you had some thoughts on that.
Well, not really, but like I said, I mean, I know that we talked about the Little League Classic, and I know it's going on. I know there was a team from in Elmhurst, but I think unfortunately they lost and they
got eliminated.
Yeah. So darn, I was really hoping they would make it, but of course you got Venezuela, Curacao, you got Japan, and Taipei. Of course the usual suspects, and in that. I know Cuba has been playing pretty well. I know Pennsylvania's been pretty solid. I know the team from Nevada that's been playing very well this Lily World Series. So I mean, I've looked at it, but I'm kind of like, okay, I guess I got to fill programming somehow. I haven't really been into it that much. I know the Hawaii team, there's going to be a different champion this year, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, you can check it out all weekend on ESPN and ESPN too. Right. That's about it.
You're listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in color. Sid Lakina here with you. Coming up is Old School TV Monday as we continue our Salute to Cartoon series. But before we do that, Lakina, I know it's only 5 days away, but week 0 of the college football season will be kicking up. We'll get into more deeper in detail on Friday. But Lakina, looking through the schedule for this games will be starting this upcoming Saturday. Of course, the headline game that's going to take place in South Bend, Indiana. The number 13 ranked team in the country, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, they'll host Navy. I think it's the first time in a long time they'll play Navy in the opening season game. If anybody else knows that the last time they did that, please let us know. Of course, take a look at the schedule for this Saturday's games. Of course, like I said, we'll get a little bit more deep into it on Friday. But just glancing at the schedule here, besides the Notre Dame Navy game, you have San Jose State traveling to USC to take on the Trojans. They're ranked number 6 in the country. And you got FIU traveling to Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of solid matches there. Of course, USC and Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. We'll see how he looks so far, and also their defense too. I mean, SC's defense. I mean, that's been kind of like the thing this year. New Mexico State hosting UMass. Of course, he thought that was going to be a basketball matchup too, but no, that's a football matchup. That's 6 o'clock on ESPN. Of course, San Diego State hosts Ohio U, Vanderbilt, and Hawaii. That's going to be 6:30 on the SEC network. But yeah, I mean, the Notre Dame Navy game is going to be interesting because, like I said, this is going to be the earliest they've played. And I think just 19. I think since Roger Staubach was there all the way back in the 60s. I think that was the last time that they played. Notre Dame played Navy this early in the season, like I think it's freshman year. I talk about Staubach's freshman year or something like that. So it's been a minute since they played this early in the year. So this is going to be very interesting, different mindset here. But I mean, like I said, week 0 is sort of one of those things where it's kind of like the appetizer to like the main course, which will be next week, on Labor Day weekend. So we'll talk more in depth. Hope we'll have some people on to talk about the college football season. So it should be interesting too. We'll still talk about all that stuff. You'll come up on Friday. Like I said, if you want to check out like I said, we'll talk more in depth on it on Friday. But yeah, I mean, so a couple intriguing games, if not nothing else for stats purposes, and nothing else.
Yeah, like you said, looking at the schedule for next week, looks like it may be a couple of games you surely can check out here. Like I said, we'll get more in depth into it this coming Friday, and definitely for next week when the real season kicks off of college football. As those new TV deals for these networks, especially dealing with the Big Ten, will kick off this year. So I'll be watching not just for the teams on the field, but how these networks covering in particular the Big Ten this year, since they started that with their new deals with CBS and NBC in particular. We talked about before all offseason, Lakina, about how the landscape of college sports in general, but definitely college football is changing with all these power conferences, teams hopping to these power conferences because the money is talking and BS is walking.
Yeah, I think that's good. And unfortunately, that's going to be the thing here. The money is sort of the root of all this. So, it'll be interesting to see, like I said, we'll talk more about it, more in depth. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, look, this is my favorite time of year. Of course, you're going to have, football, college football from now until early January. So this is my favorite time of year. We're going to get Sid to watch more college football this year. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to get it.
I'm watching that one game a week. I'm watching that one game, the game of the week per week, on this program. But in all seriousness, this is your home for college sports in particular, but definitely college football, as you want to keep it here on Sports on Chicago, Second City Sports. We have you covered from opening weekend until the national championship in January, like Lakina said. This is going to be your home for college sports once again, college football in particular, once again, right here on Second City Sports, as we'll preview the big games starting this week, next week, all the way to the college football national championship in January. So we're going to have you covered from A to Z.
Yeah, from 0 to 13. So yeah, we're gonna give you cover all of that, as well as listen. Like I say, sports on Sports of Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Okay, so it's about that time. Old School TV Monday. We're keeping it animated again. So what cartoon do you have for us this week?
Garfield and Friends.
Yes.
That's right. Garfield and Friends was an American animated television series based on the comic strip Garfield by Jim Davis. The show aired on CBS as part of his Saturday morning cheerless lineup from September 17, 1988 until December 10th, 1994. The show featured animated storylines adapted from the comic strip Garfield and Davis's other comic strip. U.S. Acres Mark Evanier was the show's head writer. Lorenzo Music provided the voice of Garfield the cat, the strip's title character, and he has done since Here Comes Garfield in 1982. Other voices present on the show included Tom Hughes as John Arbuckle, Garfield's human owner, and Greg Berger as Odie the dog. Berger and Hughes was also respectively voiced Orson Pig and Roy Rooster in the U.S. Acre segments. 121 episodes were made, each consisting of 2 Garfield segments and 1 U.S. Acres segment. All episodes have been released in the U.S. on DVD, 5 DVD sets. It was courtesy of 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment.
And all those episodes, I believe, aired on CBS. They're set by their Saturday morning lineup. They actually have that on Pluto TV now, so it's free. So all you need is an email address. So make sure you guys check out those episodes. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that we did a couple weeks ago. Their episodes are now on Pluto TV as well. So guys, check that out if you want to. Yeah, so definitely check that out if you got the download it on the app. It's free. It's easy. It's all right there. But yeah, I loved it. It came on at 10 o'clock here in Chicago. Right after I think Heathcliff was on right before then. But I love those Garfield cartoons. I know it annoyed my mom a lot, those Garfield cartoons, but I loved them. I love reading the comic strips. I mean, Garfield's hijinks with Odie and John and the rest of that group. So and also to the rest of the other gang as well. So yeah, that was a really I loved it. I mean, look, it wasn't meant to, you kind of learned lessons from Garfield a little bit, but it was just meant to give us, some mindless entertainment on Saturday morning.
Yeah, just a little history about the program. Garfield was an American comic strip created by Jim Davis, which got started back in 1978. The comic strip was the first adapted to animated form in 1980 for the special The Fantastic Funnies, but reached a wider audience in 1982 with the television movie Here Comes Garfield on CBS. Garfield was adapted into 11 more television movies for the network, ending with Garfield Gets to Life in 1991. Garfield and Friends was also made for CBS and debuted on the network, as I mentioned, in 1988. The network first announced in April of 88 that the show would be joining the network Saturday morning cartoon lineup alongside the Adventures of Raggedy Ann and Andy and Superman.
Oh yeah, well, hopefully we'll do those two cartoons at some point as well later down the line. But yeah, I mean, I think look, I said, I know you saw my tweet from yesterday that all those great bumpers, CBS bumpers that they had, they had specific themes. So yeah, Garfield was part of that theme, and it was just great timing. Look, today's kids unfortunately will never know these types of cartoons, unfortunately. But like I said, you can catch the Garfield and Friends show on Pluto TV. Just check it out. I think it's always just Garfield and Friends. Just make sure you're just searching on your app there on the Pluto TV. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, it was great fun. Clean fun. I know he got into a lot of hijinks with lasagna. I know that he annoyed the heck out of John. So it was just hilarious. But but I love that that gang that zoo gang too. So yeah, that was a really cool. They definitely balanced it out well, and all the voices were great.
Just to refresh my memory, Lakina, remember they tried to change Garfield toward the end of that series? Remember when he tried to talk? Remember in the beginning, they just had his thoughts popping out of his head. He really didn't open his mouth. But when he started to talk, call me crazy, but it kind of ruined it for me. I don't know about you, but it ruined it for me.
I think I stopped watching when they did that. I'm like, really? Now we're gonna have Garfield actually talk.
Talking, yeah. I hate to say I really wanted him to talk, growing up watching the show, but when they made him talk, it kind of ruined it for me, to be honest with you. I don't know why that was, but it kind of ruined it for me.
I don't know who thought that was a good idea. I guess they thought that, maybe for, I guess, like, I don't know, closed captioning purposes, maybe, or maybe have them actually talk. But I just think that it was just, I think it, if it wasn't for Dope Fix, I mean, that was a great part about Garfield, was that we actually able to hear thoughts in his head. Like we didn't even hear him talk. We didn't need to hear him talk, but it is what it is. But I think I stopped watching when that happened. I think that really, I think that insulted my intelligence. I think I just stopped watching at that point. But I love the rhythm music. I mean, he was a great comedic actor. He voiced a lot of great cartoons. Not just Garfield, but among many other great voices that he did. Sadly no longer with us. He died in 2001, but his voice definitely lives on. And I mean, there was some great great cartoons and stuff. So yeah, I mean, Garfield was just another one of those great pivotal ones that, again, it wasn't meant to change anything or learn. You didn't have to learn any lessons. We just had to kind of just have some fun and laugh for the next 22 minutes.
And one more historical note about the show: although the series was a success in the ratings at the time, it had become expensive to make the Saturday morning cartoon format. It was in decline by the mid-1990s. Additionally, CBS as a whole was distant third behind NBC and ABC for much of the series' run. And it was in the middle of its cost-cutting ties that resulted in CBS losing its broadcasting rights to the National Football League. Of course, Garfield and Friends was part of that whole cost-cutting change in 1994 when CBS lost the NFL the first time to Fox with a NFC package. Of course, as a result, CBS proposed renewing the show for another season, which it did with significant budget cuts. But since the show did well in syndication, producers ended the series in 1994 with the 7th season completion.
I think they use the whole cost cutting thing. That's why, and cartoons are pretty expensive. So yeah, I can get why they decided to do away with the whole cartoons format. I mean, I'm a little surprised that CBS I guess it was Saved by the Bell came on and it took off. I guess that kind of changed the complexity of it, to have more live action stuff on Saturdays. So, CBS had a lot of trouble keeping up with that, so they had to get rid of a lot of animated stuff, and I get it. But again, you kind of like, money unfortunately was the root of it too. Again, like you said with the NFL coverage. So, but we'll talk more in depth about it. Well, I'm not up against it, but yeah, I mean that was sort of one of those things where you're kind of like, I know that Garfield was one of the few bright spots for CBS. I know the Muppet Babies did pretty well too. I think that was one of the ones that I think them and Muppet Babies were definitely like one of the couple of cartoons that kept CBS from not going way too far back in the third spot. Especially when Fox first came on too, with Bobby's World and some of their cartoons too.
I was getting ready to say, hopefully we'll do some of those shows down the line. But when Fox got into the Saturday morning cartoon game in the 90s, don't forget, it's the CW now. But remember, the WB got involved in as well in the mid to late 90s. So that really changed the game as well. So, like I said, it changed the game for those networks like ABC and CBS in particular. After, like you said, NBC went to those teen comedies in the early 90s for Saturday mornings.
Yeah, so definitely. So we'll get more in depth about that, because I want to talk a little bit more in depth about that, because I think the trajectory of the cartoons, the Saturday morning cartoons, Saturday morning programming in general. You look at it now, you think you can't find a cartoon. I mean, you get like some nice family stuff, but it's not like what it used to be. So
there ain't nothing on TV on Saturday mornings anymore. It really isn't.
No. I mean, look. I remember America's Castles on A&E, and now they're showing Anthony Anderson is to try to do a barbecue venture. So just how much hip hop special. So yeah, how much that number has changed over the years. But on that note, anything else you want to say about Garfield before we wrap it up?
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed that show, but it kind of ruined it for me, like you said, when they made him talk. It's like it was just something that was off, and it just ruined my fantasy, to be a lack of a better term. Whoever decided to do that was just bad timing. I guess they was just trying to juice up the series or whatnot, but it just didn't do it for me when they made him talk.
Yeah.
That's just
I stopped watching. Yeah, no, but I stopped watching after that. So yeah, when that happened.
Yeah, same here.
It rubbed me for a reason that I felt insulted. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, the way you gotta talk, okay? I'm bad. I watch Bugs Bunny or whatever was on at the same time. But that's probably what I ended up doing. But on that, no, you fall. As today's old school TV Monday, we salute the CBS anime series Garfield and Friends.
All right, close us out.
You can follow McKenna McGee on the Twitter, and McKenna's going to get on the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast at Warp Media Podcast. That's WAR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And once again, please follow Warp Media at WAR Media on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Make sure you can catch Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And, of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Just your Roku TV, whatever device you have, or your Play Store, just type in Sports Zone Chicago right there for you. You can catch our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellows, What's Up, Cuz, and a whole lot more. I know we're going to be doing some football content as well for this upcoming football season. So make sure you guys check that out.
Yes. And so don't forget to, with football season around the corner, we'll have you covered from A to Z, from college football to the NFL and everything else in between.
All right, so make sure you guys tell your friends about our big plans coming up. We're going to be kicking off our digital previews starting this Friday. We're not going to tell you who we're going to have on just yet. You got to check it out. But
it's going to be big. big.
It is going to be big. We got a couple of guests that are going to be. We're going to knock out two divisions too as well. So you guys got to have to check that out as well. I know there's a lot of weird weather happening. It's going to be very hot here in Chicago. Make sure you guys stay cool, stay safe, and stay out of trouble. I know, of course, they got the wildfires going on in Washington State. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. I know California is recovering from the flood, so make sure all of you guys stay safe out there too. Climate change is real, folks. Just want to put that out there as well.
Yeah.
So for Sid, I'm Lakia. This is Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Enjoy all the sports, the baseball, the Lily World Series, all that stuff coming up. So we'll see. This has been Sports. It's Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Dub Bears, holla.
Mm-hmm.